Hi, I'm James Foley. I'm an author and illustrator, and this is my latest book here, Bigfoot versus Yeti. Now, it's done in a slightly unusual style. It's a Linocut technique, which is a printmaking technique, except I've done it digitally. How do you do digital Linocut? Let me show you how. So Linocut is a printmaking technique that uses pieces of lino, okay? So you're essentially making a really big stamp. You're doing that by using these Linocut tools, which have little sharp blades on the end. Can be quite thin or can be quite large and everywhere in between. And then you take your piece of lino, you draw your design onto it, and then you use these tools to etch out the parts of the lino that you do not want the ink to go onto. So you can use these tools to stab yourself, don't do that. To etch out pieces of the lino. It's a very time-consuming process, and if you make a mistake, you have to start again. There's lots of downsides to it, but it is a very beautiful process that shows all the handmade qualities that you would expect. So just as an example quickly, I've got probably not the right type of ink for this process, but I do have just some ordinary stamp pad ink, which I'm going to use for a quick little demonstration here. I'm going to dab some of this onto a stamp that I prepared earlier. I'm going to put it all over the stamp, even the parts that I have carved out, just to make sure I get some really even coverage. And normally you would do this with the proper ink and with a roller to get some really nice even coverage, but I don't have that actual tech with me at the moment, those supplies, so I'm just doing a quick alternative demo. Let's put it on a piece of watercolor paper, which I prepared earlier. Press down, peel off. There we go. Now you see that it's a beautiful process. You get all these little artifacts, these little rough parts where maybe you didn't take quite enough of the lino off, but that's part of the charm of Linocut. You want all those little mistakes and roughnesses in there. You want all these little imperfections in the ink. It just gives it this lovely handmade quality. So how do you get all of that, but with the benefits of digital? That means you've got an undo key. You can go backwards and fix things. You can copy and paste. You can resize things, but while still getting these lovely little imperfections. How do we do that? Here's my iPad, and here's a little illustration that I prepared earlier. I've just done this with white ink on black paper, but it's not looking like a Linocut. This is just a drawing. This is what I want the Linocut to do afterwards. So I have to actually do exactly the same process I would have done with Linocut. I have to do something that's a little bit like carving out the shape bit by bit by bit, like I would with these tools on actual lino. So to prepare for that, what I want to do is reduce the opacity of my sketch here so that it fades right out. It's still showing up as pure white though, so what I'm going to do is go to my background color here, make that a darker gray, and then my rough drawing, if you like, is now a lighter gray. I'm going to make a new layer on top here, and I'm going to fill that with black. I'm then also going to reduce the opacity of that black layer. Okay, so this layer here, layer 2, is the one that I'm going to start doing my digital cutting with. Now, there's some amazing, clever people who have already created some Linocut tools for Procreate, which you can buy. You can go to Gumroad, wonderful website, and these are the ones that I have selected to use, the Patty Lino tools and the ST Linocut tools. Both really wonderful with lots of amazing tools you can muck around with. Most of the time I'm just using this one here called Lino Tool Clean Cut from the Patty Lino Tools set. So I'll get that. Before I start cutting it out, I have to do a very important step. We'll go to layer 2 and we are going to set up a layer mask. What this means is that whenever I paint with black on this layer mask, it's going to cut out sections of layer 2, which it is linked with. Let me show you what that means. If I start carving out, it's going to start to show the shape underneath. I might even just reduce the opacity of this a little more so it's a little brighter and easier to see. Okay, the good thing about these Linocut tools is that as you press, they get larger, which encourages you to use smaller strokes. It means that it's more like the carving process that you would have on a normal piece of lino, except it's a lot quicker. But you're still liable to get these little artifacts in here, which are great. And I don't want to get rid of them entirely because they're what give it the lovely character that you want it to have. So as you can see, a lot quicker than normal lino, but with all the wonderful benefits of digital as well. So you can just do things a lot quicker. Okay, now that I've gone over the entire image with these extra etching layers, I'm going to turn off the original layer and we can get a little bit of an idea now of what it looks like. Great, we're getting those sharp edges, we're getting some of those little artifacts in the illustration. I'm just going to change the background color to pure white. Now we can get a clearer idea of how it looks. Awesome, it's looking like a Linocut. But one more step. At the moment, this layer mask is working off just a plain black layer. We are going to change that. We are going to just delete all the black out of there. And there's this wonderful, wonderful set of brushes in the ST Linocut group. There's these lino rolls. These are just like the roller that you get when you roll the ink onto your piece of lino. So I am going to make it really large. I'm going to set it to black, and then I'll start pressing this lino roller onto the screen. Now, as you can see, it also gives you those lovely imperfections, and it's pressure sensitive. So depending on how hard I press is how hard, how dark, how solid the black is going to come through. So I can use that intentionally to create certain areas of imperfection and sort of snowiness if I want to. Here we go. This is how you create digital Linocut. This is the book, Bigfoot versus Yeti, a love story. It's out March 3rd with Fremantle Press in Australia and New Zealand.